And an applause for our panel. Yeah, please take a seat right away. Welcome to our panel, XR use cases in the industry. Our goal today is to give you an input of how XR, AR, VR use cases are actually seen by those people implementing it and by those organizations that actually make use of them to create value in their processes and organizations. Just a few words about my organization, AI Austria. We are a non-profit organization with the goal of shining a light on what is happening in AI and also in XR in Austria. And this is also the reason we created the XR Landscape Austria a couple of years ago in 2018 to just map out the players in the ecosystem. I know many of you know each other and the industry is small, but what was surprising to me was that it's actually really versatile, and not only in Austria, also in Central Europe as that. So this morning, I came here by bike, and it's such a great weather in Vienna today. So thanks for all of you who actually joined us in here in this Austria International Center Hall. And you all know that meme, right? People saw this, and then they created extended reality, right? So it was a similar surprise for me to actually see how many innovative companies are located in Austria, and many that you don't even know of, from hardware manufacturers to content developers, from gaming companies to health tech companies, and even a lot of international companies that set up shop here for their R&D centers. And not only that, Austria is also very fast in adopting these technologies because most companies here in the industry, and that's also true for the wider Central Europe region, are very small and innovative, and they're often world market leaders in what they do, and they cannot afford to be behind. So there are a lot of companies that were early adopters of these technologies to see how they can benefit from them. And we invited a couple of them today to hear their perspective. And other than announced, I will not introduce them myself. I will let them the honor, as discussed, and we'll start here from your left to your right. So, Alexander, you go first.
So, hi. So my name is Alexander Schlager, and I'm a so-called 3D developer at WienIT. The WienIT is the IT service provider of the Wiener Stadtwerke, so it's like infrastructure for Vienna. And I'm part of the DigiLab. So the DigiLab is like the research and development department of the WienIT.
So just for clarification, it's part of the city of Vienna or a company owned by the city of Vienna?
Wiener Stadtwerke, so it means infrastructure provider.
All right, all right, wonderful.
City of Vienna, different part.
Okay, thank you. Larissa Neuburger.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Larissa Neuburger, and I'm an XR researcher in tourism at the University of Applied Sciences here in Vienna. And I have been researching XR, AR, VR in all its forms in tourism for a while now, and I'm actually happy to represent the tourism side that we haven't heard today so far. So, thank you for the invite.
Very, very good having you. Thank you. And Mario Zeppetzauer.
Hello from my side. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Mario Zeppetzauer, and I am an industrial designer. On the one hand, I'm a co-owner of a design studio called formquadrat, and there we are designing technical goods like binoculars, welding machines, and so on. And on the second hand, I'm also on the University of Arts in Linz, and I'm head of the industrial design program.
Thank you. Great for having you. And Junghwo Park?
Hello, hi, my name is Junghwo Park. I'm from Umdasch Group at the role of Head of Virtual Design and Construction. The Umdasch Group is not really known as a corporation, but we have a well-known daughter company called Doka, which supplies formwork equipments all over the world as a leading formwork company. And we have store makers where they're doing global shop fit out and interior and furniture design. I'm very happy to be here today and yeah, looking forward for the discussion.
Thank you for joining us. And in your organizations, there was one point you or your teams or your colleagues came across virtual reality, augmented reality, and in case you started some projects, what was the main motivations to go into that direction? Maybe we start off with that. What problems did you try to solve in the beginning? Alexander.
Yeah, so problems. So it's like in the Wiener Stadtwerke, we have a broad spectrum. So we are like electricity provider, we have like the public transport, etc. And one big topic is actually education. So training simulations in VR or like AR supported training materials are actually this was the main focus at the beginning of our XR journey. And like I'm from XR educational background, so I'm also worked at a university before, and I studied, so my main focus was also XR. And yeah, so one met another, and yeah, a lot of people were excited for the topic.
Yeah, and did they continue to be excited with these first kind of projects? What was their experience on the challenges that you solved with the projects that you realized, for example, in training and education?
Yeah, so in training and education, it was like it solved like the problems where, for example, we have one project for the Wiener Lokalbahn Cargo. So that's a rail cargo company, and they have to do a lot of training on the train. Yeah, and the problem is actually if a train has to be in the workshop, it can't actually transport goods. And if it doesn't transport goods, it doesn't make money. So in this case, we could actually reduce the number of days we had to do the physical experience on the train, and we could do some virtual exploring of the train beforehand instead. So yeah, so we could reduce these days the train had to be in the workshop.
Interesting. And you do it as a service provider of
so we built the prototype, and also
so you build a lot yourself.
Yeah,
so you also make
yes.
and not only buy, but
yeah, of course. So we are research and development. So the development is also one part of that.
Interesting. So moving from trains to tourism. What kind of projects, what was the motivation to actually think about AR and VR in tourism? Can you share a little bit about that?
Of course, it's actually not so far of a stretch because mobility is part of tourism, right? But tourism is all about, when I started out in tourism, it's all about immersion, it's all about escapism, escaping from your everyday world, right? And it's all about making sense to places. And that's exactly what AR and VR is doing as well, right? It's about augmenting places, it's about immersion, and it's about escapism. So these two industries actually came perfectly together. And this is how I came into that notion of combining tourism with, in my case, mostly AR, and really give tourists an opportunity to even experience places with more exciting things. And
is it like experience before you book, or you want to let
A little bit,
potential
exactly,
visitors? Okay.
because it's actually, there is a big disconnect. We all book our journeys online now, right? And we actually spend a lot of money. It's a big risk not knowing where to go, how it looks like there. So XR can also like solve the issue of this disconnect between the digital journey before and the actual journey in the destination. And it's also giving the opportunity for destinations to make more sense to places for the tourists.
Mario, coming to you, to industrial design, what kind of areas did you use virtual reality in, and what was the main motivation? What did you try to actually achieve that you weren't able to achieve with any other means?
Yeah. We started in our design studio to work with VR about 3 years ago, and we started to think about a co-lab mixed reality on the university 4 years ago, and we established it 3 years ago. And we started there with VR, and we are now step by step going into mixed reality, putting to the sense of sight other senses like haptic. So this is for us a little bit a challenge to do it in a really properly or premium way, because designers always need a premium feedback from the XR systems to can evaluate what they are designing. We never had the problem of motivation, because all designers are, at the end, they want to have a physical product which is three-dimensional. And in the very beginning, we are making design sketches and design drawings, and we are limited to 2 dimensions. And if somebody the first time put on a VR goggle, then it's impressive how immersive it is. But designers really get an immersive flash. They are almost collapse. It's so clear that the designers want to start in 3 dimensions with first thoughts when they start with a product. This is needs no more motivation.
And can I also say, like, you get actually even a better feel for physical dimensions. So it's like if you have it just on a monitor or like a sketch on a piece of paper, it's like, you can, it says it's like 3 meters, but you don't get the feel for it.
Of course, you have from the first scratch on a clear understanding what the product is about, what the 3-dimensional surface is about. And for instance, you can see how much of ergonomic response is already in our brain. You just have to look at something in 3 dimensions, and you have a clear understanding, is it good in ergonomics or not? So this is really cool.
So we can probably very well imagine how this is used in the design of consumer products, but can you give us a more concrete idea of what kind of industrial designs we are talking about here in the case of your project?
We are mostly working for companies like Fronius with welding machines, or Swarovski Optik with binoculars, or BWT with all these products for generating pure and pure water. So our products and our field is always not only the aesthetical design, also to bring together the functionality and putting the engineering on board. And sometimes we are really working on industrial machines, which are then producing other products.
Thank you. Junghwo, so Doka is in construction and retail design, and you are a trained architect. What was the motivation for Umdasch Group actually to move into XR, in their own XR projects?
Actually, the initiative was all about communication in construction industry. Is as you might know, is very conservative. Technology-wise, also a bit behind in comparison to the other industry. The communication is always the most difficult part. And of course, that's as far as health and safety factor, where we have to supply the formal supply equipment for large infrastructure such as dam or railway stations. And the traditional email or message is not enough, but the visual effect for us is really a strong message. And once you project it, everyone can understand what's wrong and where is collisions and this kind of issue immediately. And of course, it is difficult to implement in this very fast, dynamic industry with more than 60 stakeholders usually involved in project. So still there is challenge for us, the instant feedback from those technology, but still we see this return of investment for visualizing and communicating in an efficient way is most motivation for our companies.
Mm-hmm. So talking about time, when did you start with your own XR project?
We had to think about what is the right way to communicate. XR, we are honestly recently trying to implement it, but we start with the VR and AR back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So our developers developed Doka AR app. So we have showroom where in the showroom they can physically augment reality using all kind of the industry products they can use as a training or onboarding for the new employees. And we also start VR of our showroom about 4 years ago. We started it as a researcher in our company with our team. We start to produce our VR tour back in just right before pandemic time. Mm-hmm. And it was very useful because we can archive the showroom and open to the world for 24 hours, 7 days, and everyone can access there, and our colleagues can get training mobilely. So it was a really good opportunity.
So when your CEO asks you what the measurable impact of these projects were, the return of investments, what would you answer, and how has XR evolved, like in your personal, like in your organizational use?
Yeah, actually, during the pandemic, that was exact question from our CEO, but the answer is it's a competitive industry. It's a competition. Many other competition is involved, and we would like to be a leading company in the industry, at least to provide any extra service. So we actually internalize the funding from the group. We're trying to push our belief as far as metaverse technology. So we're trying to use metaverse as a backbone, and all these kind of other additional technology, AR, XR, and also VR, and IoT or sensoric data, trying to connect in this ecosystem. And that was the kind of answer, because we're not looking at tangible revenue directly from this technology, but rather providing better service and winning in the competitive competition.
I want to pass that question on to WienIT. Mm-hmm. Alexander, what would you counter? How has what measurable impacts did your projects create?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, there's like a value in money. Like I said before, the train is actually working cargo freights and has not to be in the workshop. But there's also more engagement from the people that actually learn about the train and the systems, and it's more like a gamified experience. So it's more fun, if you want to say so. So yeah, so it's actually more engaging.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So is there a similar effect in tourism? Do you have measurable? Do you have any data on measurable impact of AR VR in tourism? Actually.
So engagement is a perfect keyword actually, because engagement is one of the measures that we also see in tourism, right? Tourism, or to see how XR has its impact in tourism, is more about the length of stay of visitors, or if they revisit a destination or a site again. And also the engagement that they have. And of course, one of the currencies that we have in tourism that we all know is reviews, right? Recommendation. When we go to a restaurant, and you will know in Vienna, you are always looking up the Google reviews of a place, right? And that is a very important currency, and that is also a very competitive market. So XR can help actually for a destination or for a site, like a museum, to stand out a little bit. So we have these more engagement numbers. And my focus was always tourism experience, and that is also something that you can measure with quantitative measurements and theories and research that stands behind it. And it shows definitely that the difference between XR and not AR is definitely given, and that with XR, the tourism experience is much higher than without. And that are kind of the more, so to say, qualitative measures that we have in that industry, but that they are very important, because tourism is all about experiences.
Yes. So just for clarification, I always talk about XR, mainly for the reason because I want to say it's AR and VR and MR. We can talk about definitions, but just to for your clarification. In the design process, Mario, can you share some aha moments where actually real decision-making process were impacted by, for example, your industrial design VR solutions?
Yes, there are quite a lot. We had
to pick one.
Yeah, a big one. We had a project with a company which wanted to create a terminal for the airport for the security control. And you have to drop and pick up your luggage by your own. And we had two options concerning the economic situation. And for us, it was absolutely clear, the option 2. And for the client, always it was just option 1, because option 1 is much more easier, much more, with low costs to build up. And we were talking about it several times. Then we started to bring everything into VR. And we had a test, a virtual test, and after 2 minutes, they were on our side. Because they have this immersive experience by their own, what it means to pick luggage into it and drop it and pick it again. Yeah.
It's really like show, not tell, and actually experience. And then you all understood what you were talking about, and then it was clear that option 1 was the better one?
It was clear, it was absolutely clear, and it was clear in the very early stage. Otherwise, has been clear after 2 months when the first prototype was working.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when realizing, when implementing these projects, I'm sure not everything went smooth. Have there been also some challenges during implementation that you faced, for example, like acceptance or technical challenges or organizational challenges? Budgetary constraints?
On the field of VR, it's not so challenging. The challenge here is that we almost every day discover some new kind how to work with VR. So the challenge is, what can we do with it the next time? Mm-hmm. With mixed reality, it's quite different because there are a lot of issues coming. We need somebody who can code. We have more costs. We have to bring together physical objects and virtual objects. And this is really difficult for us. So there we are facing a lot of problems, of course, but we are going forward step by step. And now we are also collaborating with a big company in Germany, which also wants to build up a mixed reality lab. So the next month will be very delightful for me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Some news coming along. Junghwo, you already mentioned the construction industry is a conservative one. What kind of what is the acceptance rate? Have you heard from your colleagues of XR solutions?
So basically, on site construction, you can see the dust, and there are a lot of arbitrary elements that you can cause the device completely kaput. So this was one of the issue, and another thing is the on-site installation, where the actual equipment suppliers, they hesitate to use it because they're a bit scared of the all these hardwares. So I think this is one of the biggest barrier we in construction sector need to overcome, where if the device is more perhaps mobile device based, then could be much easier to implement it. And on another side is, so we found that it's much easier to still use physical elements on site, but in advance on construction site, we can show the construction stage of how all this formwork equipment is going to be assembled, and it reduces the on-site training time. So we are implementing more in advance back in office, and have this kind of training sessions for all the on-site people. And in on-site, it's more about the as usual traditional way. But we hope that this kind of resistance will be overcome by the time with the technology. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, Alexander, you studied that field, so you have a certain background, and as everybody here, I mean, the developments in AR and VR are so fast, it's hard to keep track when you're not actually dealing with it on an everyday basis and are acquainted with the sources and the developments and the definitions, etc. We can only wonder how it might feel for somebody from outside that field. And I mean, how do you address that? I mean, we see so many industry use cases, for example, that use the HoloLens, which is actually a 6-year-old device, right?
Right.
And which kind of just shows the different speeds of that industry as compared to decision-making process in the manufacturing industry, for example. How do you deal with these challenges?
So in our case, it's actually that, I mean, we, of course, in the department, we look at all the websites and all the channels, etc., but that we can show the WienIT in general, or the Wiener Stadtwerke, what's actually possible today. We have regular events. So it means we are on company events and having some showcases, some demos, just to show the people what is possible and maybe spark ideas what they could do for their part of the Wiener Stadtwerke. So that actually was most of the time where ideas were born. And then they talked actually to my superior and said, is this possible? And then we said, yeah, probably. We have to have a look at it. But yeah, that's mostly a beginning of projects. So just showcases and demos that we can offer to spark ideas.
So So you're like an internal resource or like an innovation department as well. We can see it like that.
That's correct.
And then probably in tourism, I mean, it's also not, well, it's an innovative industry, but in terms of digitalization, I'm not sure whether it's very well known as an innovative and agile industry. How do you, for example, argue for a marketing budget going into VR content as compared to traditional TV content or catalog or magazine content? Is that a topic for the industry?
It is, partly. So the biggest problem that the tourism industry in Austria has that we don't have these big players, right? So there's always the budget problem that we have. And oftentimes, tourism businesses don't really see the added value of using XR. What is interesting, because tourism has always been on the forefront, right, of digitalization. When we talk about booking platforms, right, Airbnb, Uber, although it was actually never tourism businesses that developed these use cases, it was actually from a completely different side of the industry. When it comes to AR and VR, that is actually what we're seeing. Tourism industry is kind of really lacking behind right now. And I think that's because you have this big dissonance between the users on the one hand, so the tourists that are used to use their phones and like do the typical gesture of holding their phones and scanning something, and the tourism businesses that don't really know what to do with that. So I think there is a big need for like having someone in the middle that is kind of translating these two sides and actually developing content and use cases that is useful for the tourists, but also giving added value for the tourism businesses to really use that.
So you suggest that organizations that actually develop VR, AR solutions speak a different language than the audience they want to address with these solutions?
Yes, I think so. Especially in tourism, in Austria, we have a lot of small and medium enterprises. If you talk about hotels, most of them are actually family-owned. This is a completely different language that they speak. So I really think that in tourism, you sometimes need kind of just a translator that is also specialized in tourism experiences from like a kind of framework, and that, you know, there has to be some kind of, you know, growing together, because to kind of gap or to fill the gap that is there right now.
Mario, how do you see that topic?
The topic is?
Basically, do solution providers, vendors speak a different language than their users in your case of industrial design, or is it?
Definitely, definitely it is like that. But I can understand it, because XR vendors have to focus on the bigger market, and industrial design is really a small market. But there is an exception, the design tool Gravity Sketch. This is really made for industrial designers. As I heard, I think that the people which have started the Gravity Sketch application were designers before. So they have a clear understanding what the industrial designer needs during its design process.
So you mentioned Gravity Sketch, for example. John, you must also get to see a lot of different vendors of all kinds of solutions. Can you say one, two words about vendor understanding?
Yeah, sure. As far as I see, like many big players like Autodesk, Nemetschek, Trimble, all those solutions for engineering and for the construction sector, they now engaging with last few years XR and especially VR options that always embedded it, which is great because it makes us much easier to communicate and give us opportunity to engage with our clients in a way much more transparent communication. And I was in San Diego in Otis University last month, and it was like everything was about AI, and about 64 times they mentioned AI. So I wish the kind of new technology somehow merged with the XR technology, so that the XR in the market can be also along with other sectors. And I see there are a lot of improvement in terms of battery life of hardware and the weight, and using those devices, and especially from Meta or the Apple announced. But still we see in terms of buying those devices for bulk users too risky for the return of invest perspective in our company. So from my point of view in the construction sector, yeah, I think what I was surprised as an architect visiting AWE, and the thing technology-wise, I think it's much, much advanced. And I wish this kind of event can be sometimes coordinated with other events on construction sector, that they can influence each other and develop in a more positive way. And that I think this is really important.
So we already started with a wish list to the technology and to the industry. So Alexander,
there was actually one thing that I can mention. I was at the Messe Hannover, and there was actually some kind of XR booth area. So there was actually industry and also XR experiences, or like XR tools for this area.
Yeah, right. I mean, the last comments for the vendors' perspective, I think they now providing many different variation of pricing model, which is also good, because most of our case in construction sector, we use this technology project-based rather than a year of long-term usage. So I think this is also a great value that vendors can add if they provide flexible license fee for to multiply this technology to use in different industry would be definitely a good direction.
Alexander, the vendor perspective, you saw many pilot projects and also projects getting realized. What would be your honest critique on the vendor understanding be? What do you actually need and require?
What do you actually need and require? So sometimes the problem is if you go experimental, so you see some device and you think it's actually pretty great and the usage of it fits your needs, but then the support gets dropped really early. So the problem is if you go in an experimental way, you never know if you get future support and you can use the device or get future updates for it. So, and then you have to stick again to the big players. So yeah, it's a gamble sometimes. So
it's connected to the size of the companies, of the volatility of the market? Or?
Most of the times it's about the size, yeah.
What has to happen in the next 3 years? I mean, everybody probably talks about that here today, for AR, VR to be more widely adopted in organizations, in enterprise clients.
Enterprise clients. So yeah, so what I can see is that still at events that we hold, the wow moment when someone actually has an VR headset, it's like their first time, and I was wondering, like, okay, we have 2024, you never had a VR headset, like you never used a VR headset before, like not one experience, and I was like thinking, okay, we maybe have to do more reach out and do more education, like I said, what is possible, so that it gets maybe more adopted.
So like educating
Yeah.
educating the user or just providing opportunities. I also experienced that, and not here today, obviously, of course, and in our round, but it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's most like with the most simple experiences, sometimes they are like amazed. And I was like, okay, maybe we have to do some more to get it out to the people.
And Junghwo, you mentioned AI, basically, that you would see valuable use cases in the merging of VR, AR, and AI, as far as I understood, correct?
Yeah.
And maybe Mario, what do you envision for future growth of these applications among enterprise clients in your case?
I think in the field of industrial design, a lot of industrial designers already started to use VR technology, and I think VR technology has come and will stay. So I can't see the point where it comes to a reduction. It's moving forward because the design process is very wide. It has multiple stages. So if you start with research and analysis and making then the ideation, then the concept, and then the final design, in every concept we detected a lot of uses or useful moments for VR. And it's increasing. And we will start with a client from us. A company name is Phil. A project in the next few months where we want to bring together the perspective on VR from a designer and the perspective from an engineering department, and to merge these two perspectives with a clear focus also on generating very quick concepts and evaluating them in terms of ergonomics.
Mm-hmm. And Phil is a producer of machines. He is located in the Innviertel. He has about 1,000 employees at the moment, and about, I think, 400 engineers are working there. And they are producing a lot of machines for the automotive industry, for plastic, for wood, and ski manufacturing. So one more question to all of you. How do you actually experience the ecosystem here in Central Europe and in Austria? Are there any platforms like events or like resources that you use to connect? Do you have your own network, your local network, or are you mainly relying on the large international organizations that are out there? How would you describe their strengths and weaknesses? And do you see an opportunity here from your kind of perspective? Maybe you can share a little bit about how you experience the local ecosystem.
Yeah, so about the local ecosystem, so I guess one big anchor in the Austrian XR industry is XR Vienna. So that's a community around XR creators and developers, and they have a lot of events all over the year. So to connect and also meet people from the area. What is also possible in Austria is that you can get some governmental fundings. So if you are a company or a research department from university and you have a project in XR, there is a possibility that there is some funding for your projects. So that's also a good part. It's not in every country, I guess. And one advantage, what I also think, is that Austria is a good market for smaller companies in the XR area. So you don't have to be like these big companies, so also smaller companies could survive here.
If they have a specialized service. Maybe one more comment, because we will open up the stage to questions from the audience, so you can think about some uncomfortable questions that you can ask us in a couple of seconds. Maybe who wants to say something about the ecosystem for the final round?
Yes, I am from Linz, and of course Linz is also, from my side, a quite good ecosystem. We have Ars Electronica Center. We do have the Johannes Kepler University, and next to Linz, Hagenberg. And we are all collaborating with all of these institutions. And we have a lot of companies in the area of Upper Austria, which also have a very technical and VR focus.
Thank you very much. So I'm looking at the audience. Do we have one question that you would like to have answered? Just raise your hand or shout it, or maybe there's a microphone too, I don't know. Oh, there's one, yes. Do we need a microphone? There's a microphone. Oh, sorry, I overheard that in the briefing. Sorry.
So if I'm an SME, what would you recommend? What would be a good first step to get started using XR to better visualize for my clients and things like that?
I can answer that. In our case, technology, there are so many technology available, but it definitely need to analyze what's your business use case, what's the target group, and I would recommend start with a simple project, pilot project, which doesn't require long-term maintenance and strategy. Rather, quickly jump in and test that applications or service, whatever available for that business use case. And after that simple use case, the company in general can looking further what others available. So don't make it so big technology landscape to give the investment for your return. Rather start with small. And also another thing, we did actually a lot of, if you're talking about the ecosystem, we were also involved in industry kind of collaboration. It's called last year we were involved in EcoPlus. Many industrial sectors, different domains, they gather together and presenting those technology from each company. And this kind of exchange, you get some better idea to begin with. So from our point of view, it's really recommend start with the small and then make a bigger ambition as time goes on.
Maybe from some other words on how to get started with XR. What do you say to potential clients in the tourism field?
So I would say, I think there's, and that's also a big need to actually have systems where maybe clients or like people in general can create their own content. I started out with Wikitude a long time ago. That was actually a perfect platform to just try out. I was a student back then without IT background and could do that. So I think it would be a good way to actually give people a way to just try things out and to really see what is working. But for tourism businesses, I think it needs to have some research. Either they do the research there themselves, or they really get in contact with universities or agencies that are out there working on that. There are a lot of really great use cases in tourism, so I think it just needs a little bit of inspiration.
Thanks a lot. Do we have any more questions? Oh yeah, here in the front. There's a microphone in the back, because there's maybe you have to. Or can you? Yeah. Oh, we can hear you. Yeah.
So at an enterprise level, how have you deployed VR experiences within your organization? Meaning, are they self-guided
So maybe I can answer some of that. In our case, we most of the time have some kind of education center or some kind of school where we have some predefined spaces and also some trainers that are actually know the systems. So this is actually a very good entry for all the people that try the experiences. But I also have to say that it's most of the time when we develop an application, it's like, for us, it completely makes sense. It's like, yeah, you take this and do that, and then you just try to test it with someone, and it's like, I don't know if you know this means, and I don't do this, no. And it's like a completely different picture because you developed it, you know every little detail of it, but if you give it to someone else, it's like, oh, no. You have to think about it again. So yeah, you have to definitely test it over and over again with a lot of people that are not involved into the project. Yeah, and then roll it out.
From our large corporation, in this case, we have a different community within corporation. Like we have digital community, developers community, and engineering community. And what we did was to begin with, the digital community brought the topic within limited people, the employees who interested in first. So we roll out during the test phase within this community first. And then we discuss, okay, we get the feedback in our research department, how we should roll out for the entire organization. The answer was we end up not enabling VR, for instance, VR glass as a device for the first step, but we give opportunity switch on and off from the web browser. So you don't need to actually have always VR glasses, but rather you can use just mobile devices or PC to access that environment. And if someone interested in, they can enable that features. So I think it's kind of step-by-step testing phase, and then roll out for the right concept for the organization to roll out to whole group would be definitely beneficial.
Thank you. So, no more questions? Oh, there's one question. There's a microphone, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. My question is to Dr. Larissa. We are creating XR experiences for like Museum Belvedere here. I'm basically working in a studio. And when we talk about the clients and the audience, I mean their audience, target audience side, how do you evaluate the audience behavior when when they just experience an XR application, and how is the behavior, the gap between before they are like thinking of way of thinking, and how is it after they experience like an XR application? Is the gap huge, or like, yeah, that's my question. If they want to go there and just experience it, do you have kind of a research? Yeah.
So the question was if the gap before and afterwards?
Yeah, exactly.
From the tourist perspective,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it varies also in terms of how much experience they have with XR. And oftentimes we're not talking about VR, right? Simple like screens and projections of that can also work in that XR field. But the gap in terms of enhancement of the experience is that what is the highest actually, and where you can really see a difference. So it's first of all engagement, but it's also in terms of like their education is a big point, so the information and the content, and you also have the entertainment side. So if that all comes together, that builds up that tourism experience, and that is the big gap that you can actually measure before and afterwards. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah.
We have 1 minute left, so I want to take the chance to say, yeah, there's a lot of awareness building still needed, because even though it's experienced as a hype sometimes, and also called like that, it's a hype that most people only heard of, including some decision makers. So we really need to get out there and talk to potential clients and talk about problems, probably, and go to the use cases from there. Our speakers, thank you very much for joining us. You will stick around. Please, I would love to invite you all to our little booth over there with the Austrian business agency that enabled us to join you here, and also to check out the XR Landscape Austria.org. You can check it. And thanks for being a part of our panel here. I hope you enjoyed the discussions and have a great show. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.